God is good?
All the time.
All the time. Are you sure? All the time? Really? I mean, in the first reading today from Exodus, God called His hand-picked people stiff-necked and depraved and threatened to blow every last man, woman, and child to smithereens. You call that good? Sure. They deserved it. I mean, He had heard their cry from captivity in Egypt, and through a truly stunning array of miraculous events, led them to freedom. And how they were paid? By making an idol out of their jewelry and giving it the glory for their deliverance. Still, it's a good thing Moses was there, because Moses had to make God take a chill pill and talk about stuff that he was going to regret later. Good old Moses. And if you're buying that take on the situation, I got a brand new 40-story building in downtown Lexington you might be interested in. Because you see, the deal is God did not want the guy He chose to establish His nation thinking like the people He was leading. God wanted Moses to adopt his mindset, a mindset of grace and mercy, instead of a mindset of justice. And Moses came through with flying colors, because justice demands that the Israelites pay dearly for betraying their God. And that's the nature of justice. It's about owing and being owed. Tit for tat. There's a certain inability to forgive that's inherent in justice. A calculating mentality. And once we owe or are owed something, there's division, conflict. It's the world we live in. Now, please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that justice is a bad thing. I mean, it's how we deal with each other's human nature. And it sure beats the heck out of injustice. But it's not the best thing. It's not God's thing. Jesus brings out this contrast between the mindset of justice and the mindset of grace very vividly in today's gospel. The Pharisees and the scribes are ticked off at Jesus because He's hanging out with tax collectors and sinners. They think He's unjust. See, they're the righteous ones, so Jesus should be hanging out with them. Not with a riffraff that the scum deserve nothing more than condemnation. So, the story goes, to them He addressed this parable. What man among you, having 100 sheep and losing one of them, would not leave the 99 in the desert and go after the last one until he finds it? For the people in Jesus' audience, this question was rhetorical. They knew what He was talking about. They knew that there's not a shepherd in his right mind who would expose 99 unattended sheep in order to run off and pick up a stray one. They knew that the shepherd would calculate the situation and cut his losses in favor of the 99 he did have. That makes sense. That's the mindset of justice. But God's mindset of grace throws all caution to the wind. God is crazy in love with each and every one of us and cannot bear to lose anyone. His love takes irrational risks for the sinner. Still, the 99 He leaves behind are going to be secure because They are already in His all-encompassing love. Jesus makes the very same point with the woman and her coins. It's interesting that the word used in the original Greek to describe the lost coin is a pittance. So, just imagine, if you will, I have 10 nickels. And I drop one of them, and it rolls under a great big heavy piece of furniture. Okay, now imagine me throwing out my back in order to move it and wading through all the dust bunnies, dog hair, whatever is down there to find it. And then when I do find it, imagine me inviting all of you to a great big party, complete with drinks, food trays, entertainment, the works, to celebrate my finding of my nickel. You'd probably all think I was more than just a few bubbles off plumb for this. And you'd be absolutely right. Because it's just not worth it to us to do something like that. But it is to God. He doesn't love by justice. He loves by grace, and each and every one of us is worth it to Him. Now, all of us here today know pretty much what God's laws are and what's pleasing to Him, etc., etc. And like the Pharisees and the scribes, we have no trouble determining which group is in, which group is out. We know these things because they make sense to us. And we have a pretty nasty tendency to project the way that we think onto God. We often expect Him to love according to the strict patterns of our own calculations, our own mindset of justice. I mean, yeah, we want justice from those who hurt us. So we think that God must be that way too. Good thing for us, and the Israelites in the first reading, that He's not. The truth of the matter is, we cannot add anything at all to God's greatness by our moral superiority. Nor can we diminish His greatness at all by our moral failures. We can't change His essence one iota, but He can sure change ours. As the first chapter of the Gospel of John says, from His fullness we have all received grace upon grace. Today, as we commemorate the horrible events of 9/11, the lives lost, the unspeakable trauma that so wounded our collective conscience, I think that we would do well to put a great deal of distance between us and the twisted form of the mindset of justice that's been playing out on an international stage down in Gainesville, Florida. The evil and vicious acts perpetrated by a group of terrorist fanatics cannot be counteracted by an outrageous and grave gesture of hatred against a book considered sacred by a legitimate religious community. That's not Christian. And it's sure not grace. Here's a newsflash for you. Just like in most parishes all over the world, there are divisions in our own parish that feed off the mindset of justice. If you really, really want to honor the memory of those who lost their lives 9 years ago, those who still mourn, if you really and truly want healing, stop playing the games of calculation. Who's in, who's out. Instead, accept God's blanket invitation to bask in a love that is exuberant, extravagant, uncalculating, and completely, totally irrational. Show it to each other, and then take it out to a world that desperately needs it. God is good. I couldn't have said it better myself.